Hi guys, welcome to another fully operational video. This time bringing you a finals coverage from the Preston Harlequins regional that happened in the UK in the middle of May 2014. We've got Spike from the Frozen in Carbonite podcast joining us today for commentary. Hi Spike.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure, as always. This was a match I think that happened just before the FAQ to put Dash and Freeholders on the restricted list.
Okay.
So a bit of a warning there for viewers: don't hate us if you see some Dash shenanigans coming out of the table.
Some pretty exciting objectives being flipped, I see.
Yeah, two dark times for the rebellion. So that's Steve Johnson on the right playing as Dark Side, and myself on the left as Smugglers. So straight off the bat, I'm forced to do damage to my objectives because of a dark time.
And that's across the Anuat sector, right?
Yeah, two Anuits
Uh,
and a Razor Stakes.
Okay, so you don't want damage on those. Oh no, that's the other objective, isn't it?
Yeah, Razor Stakes turns off if it's damaged, but Anuit just gives. So Razor Stakes is doing unopposed is raised to 2, and
Yep.
across the Anuits give Smuggler units extra blast damage if they attack alone, I think.
So slightly lucky there that they weren't the other pod, hey?
No,
Otherwise,
yeah, the one that turn off. So, but yeah, 2 damage straight off the bat before anyone's played any cards. It's a nice flop actually on the dark side if you can capitalise on it, I think.
sure. Yeah, is Steve's playmat canon, Andy?
I think it was just a mat they had on the day. Yeah, that's probably some early Stormtrooper armour the guy was rocking. Um,
Okay,
but yeah,
cool.
looks like that's an orbital
Orbital
station.
resupply.
So I'm expecting some big vehicles out here, AT-ATs or Star Destroyers. But he opens with a ATST.
Interesting. Two, in fact. Very
Two.
nice.
I think they're the versions that get shielding.
Correct. I'm pretty sure they are. Which make up for their low hit points, I believe.
Yeah, 1 hit point with shielding. I quite like them as blockers. No, they're not going to do any damage to a unit, but they, like I say, they shield, and if you need to go on the offensive, they're actually pretty tasty for their cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good
Okay,
for blocking sleuths.
so he's attached one to the force, makes sense, and he's passed over to you. So what have you got in your hand there,
Yeah,
Andy?
this is a bit of a. I've got a hold on all the cards which gets played. Like I say, before the restriction on those 2 pods being in the deck. I think I've got 3 swindles in my hand at this point.
Okay,
So
which actually is gonna help you against a unit like the ATST.
like the ATSDs. I don't know. This is a bit of a learning point. I think ultimately I end up playing a lower cost unit and then swindling any defenders that he sends in. What potentially I should have done looking back is play, if I knew that was going to be my play, swindle them before he attaches to the force and keep it on the light side. So that's a
Sure.
learning point, and that I think there's a lot of people that need to
So you would have swindled both before he attached one to the force. Okay, that's
potentially.
quite risky. But yeah,
Yeah, it keeps the tempo on my side of the board. It's 2 swindles. There's only 2 resources, so.
yeah, that's true.
And yeah, there's the Twi'lek smuggler, so costing my other 2. And
Twi'lek smuggler going in alone against the Dark Time for the Rebellion.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So what I'm thinking here is I know I can swindle both, and with the amount of damage from across the Anuit, and yeah, there we go. So 2 swindles on those ATSTs.
Great.
It's doing 1, 2 for unopposed, 3, 4 because of the Anuits, and here's some magic.
Boom.
Yeah. 5th.
See you later,
Boom.
alligator.
So I think that's the power of kind of the scum, not the scum, the smugglers at this point
Yeah.
in the meta is that unit has no blast damage on it, and instantly it's just taken out an objective.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's a good start. What are your thoughts on the smugglers then? Since were you running smuggler decks before the
Yeah,
restrictions, or
I sort of was. I was running sleuths back in the day when sleuths were sort of the big power hitters. I was running them with home one,
yeah,
so just going full on damage. I then switched away from the little bit when holding all the cards in in the dash and the freeholders meta came out for that regional dark sphere. I ran that
yeah,
like everyone else, and actually now I've actually gone back to sleuths instead of Jedi, where most people are now. Just because I love the speed and I love the you can just play very quickly and very aggressively, and you
yeah.
know if you've won or lost in the first couple of rounds.
And there's a lot. I think I agree with that. Personally, I'm a sleuth man myself for the speed. I think that might change in the future. As we know, we spoiled some Jedi cards recently on
Yeah,
the Fully Operation channel. Go check out that video. But with the deluxe set coming out as well, that's going to open up a lot more options for the Jedi. So I think if I'm going to move away from the vehicle deck, it's going to be with that expansion, I think.
yeah. Well, here's a counter attack coming from the ATSTs right now. And
Yeah.
what was that card? I missed that. It was quite quick. Did you see what he played?
I think it gives him an extra unit, an extra icon, combat icon of his choice, I think.
Cool.
And important to note, he got a double resource, unstoppable advance, when he refreshed his resources.
Yeah.
So he's back up and running with quite a lot of resources, 2 from Imperial Command and 2 from Unstoppable Advance. So he can get the tempo and his board in play quite quickly if I don't get a handle on this.
Sure. Now, one of the reasons, the biggest reason I don't play Navy, aggressive Navy, is because I realized very early on the win condition for both when you play an aggressive Navy deck is objectives.
Yeah.
And I always think, going into a slog 1-for-1, you're at a negative disadvantage because the light side only ever has to destroy 3 objectives. And if you keep slogging, 3 objectives isn't going to cut it for you. You've got to destroy 4, and have the dark side on your side, which is why I personally never gone for a full-on assault navy deck. I don't know what you're thinking is there.
I think there's certainly at this time with this regional with the cards that were out for this event, I would agree with you. I don't think you're able to build a deck that can punish just as fast as a light side deck can. I think that's changing a little bit with some of the Imperial cards that are coming out. And the ability to just unfocus and attack again is quite nice.
So you're holding all the cards here are working really well for you. He's got no defenders, so you don't have to worry about edge battles, about powering up his hand.
Yep.
You can just keep fishing for the units you need, those sleuths, those blockades, I guess, and just keep hitting him hard, right? And yeah, I mean, it's just a pure slugfest.
Freeholders there for 2, is that? Yeah, so can't complain. I'll pay 2 for freeholders all day, every day.
And you got a blockade runner that I guess you're just gagging to get out, right?
Yeah, that's the trick. That was one of the calls I made on the day. Not running the vehicle deck with Yavin 4, so I can't make vehicles cheaper. So it's that blockade runner actually doesn't do much in the deck other than raise the stakes to the table.
Interesting.
But yeah, feeling pretty good about the board here. Both, like you say, both the defenders are locked out. I'm going to be able to put tactics down, which he can shield. But I'm getting some free damage in here, so I'm quite happy with how these first turns are working.
Yeah, it's not looking good for him at all right now, is it?
It's an odd one with the looking at the objectives he's got on the board and the enhancement. Steve's looking for big units that I can't swindle and that I need to power through to get to his objectives. I just don't think, speaking to him on the day and after the game, I don't think he drew them in his first few hands. And as you see, just putting him on the back foot, playing his first turn over again, basically. The tempo definitely swung away from him. But it's putting some damage on 2 more objectives, so just need to swing for those 2 and do the last few.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
Steve's got to be on the back foot here.
What do you do if you're the dark side player? Do you try and defend, or do you, it's unlikely you're going to score the objectives you need at this point, especially with the force being with you.
Yeah, it's tricky. I probably would be digging for some officers here, trying to tactic some of those units out. The sleuth and the Twi'lek. I guess especially the sleuth, especially because I've got swindles in my deck. Those freeholders, I'm not too worried about because you can just engage them. There's no mechanic where they can just avoid all your defenders.
Yeah.
So they're not so much of a worry for me. But I think I'd be digging for tactics for things like Motti, General Veers, things like that.
Sure.
But like you, I think I'm not too up to speed with Imperial decks. So seeing Steve get to the finals in this regional was healthy for the meta, I think.
Yeah, I think there are some beautiful cards. The Devastator, for example. Every turn that's hitting, that's destroying an objective, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Very strong. And
it's a good meta call. It's a very aggressive deck when it gets going. Lots of blast damage, and there you go. There's Colonel Stark. So he can put some pain on my side of the board, and those are exactly the kind of character I want to see come out from Steve's side of the table.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing about this time of where the meta was at the time is you had the opportunity of, if you turned over the wrong objective of your light side opponent, that would clear your board as well, right?
As light side, yeah, with the what is it? It's the dash objective. Is it the freeholder objective?
Yes. And it was called, oh, I can't remember now.
Huh.
You know what I'm talking
I
about, though,
know the one
right?
you took. Yeah, just a reaction to clear the board.
And I think that was, I mean, for a lot of players, they were afraid of playing aggressive decks because you didn't want to be destroying your light side objectives because you don't want to be seeing that coming up and clearing your board and giving your opponent a free next turn.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because it's not really a fair refresh either because it's only ever going to happen at the start of the light side player's turn,
Yeah,
so they can just pump their board back up with a few units and go in swinging with unopposed.
yeah, because everything goes back to your hand. So
Yeah,
if you've got freeholders, I mean,
they're basically
that's
free at that point.
yeah. So I am very, very pleased that FFG stepped in and made the ruling that they did at that time.
Yeah. So Stee is attacking with Stark there. I think that's a good choice. If I'm right, Stark's got a tactics icon on him.
Yeah,
So um, if you can win that edge battle, you can tactics out at least one defender and put some good damage on my side of the board.
yeah. I think that's what he wants to do. He's just trying to stall you at all costs at this point.
Yeah.
Although it's going to be an uphill struggle. Okay, that's 5-5.
And a battle path, so I think he can refresh a damage off of one of those objectives. Yeah, so that heals up. It's always a nice ability to see.
There it goes.
And an orbital, discarding an orbital to the edge.
Mm.
I suppose with not many units on the table, it's not doing
This
much
point
for you.
he has to, doesn't he? And I think even with the shielding, it might not be enough to defend against your imminent attack. But let's see what happens here. Some interesting.
So again, I think that's the card that Steve played in turn one.
That's
an
okay.
additional icon. So doing an extra damage to questionable contacts.
Okay. And then this is okay, and an attack picks on there absolutely because you get to swing back. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Flipping around.
Yeah.
So I think you've still got a swindle in your hand, right?
I think so. It was a blockade and a swindle. I think were the two cards I kept. So I think what my game plan here is swing with the sleuth, try and prompt to block, and leave the freeholders. No, not even that. So the swindle goes through. That's two attacks that can't be opposed.
Yeah. And no matter which way you cut it, I think GG, right?
That's game. So it's a weird one. It's a very, very aggressive deck that Steve brought to the table. It just didn't seem to get. And there's another character that can come out. It just didn't seem to get a ball rolling on the day.
Yeah, and disappointing because I mean Steve did all the right things. I mean he's using the ATSTs, which are 2-cost defenders, which against sleuths, I mean you know that there are swindles in the deck, so 2 costs aren't the way to defend against sleuths, but they're a pretty good start, right?
Yeah, exactly. With the shielding, you can't really in that deck. There's not many better characters for blocking the sleuth. So
it's a real shame there that he wasn't able to get his deck going.
Yeah, I think there's just a double swindle at the start of the game, set the pace, and there you go, two unblockable attacks, game over.
Good game.
So I think the dial finished there on 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I think we're running similar decks on the day. So going into game 2, Steve's got to get his power characters out and deal that damage quickly to take a modified win. So let's move on to game 2 and see how it pans out.
All right.